And good evening, everybody, and welcome to Going Nuclear, full blown coverage of the land. Ethan Greenberg here, and joining me right now is my son, Jacob Greenberg. Jacob, thank you for stepping in here a little bit earlier than the usual. How are you doing this evening? Are you awake from a long day at school?
Yes, I am. I'm doing great.
Okay, well, we'll try not to keep you up past your bedtime. I know your dad is a real hard ass, so we don't want that. No, But to everybody out there, welcome again to Going Nuclear, full blown coverage of the land. Ethan Greenberg here. Our normal co host, Mike Rasinski, he will be with us shortly. These darn parental duties, Jacob, take us away, and then we're missing out on things. It's kind of like on Sundays when I am now in a situation where I have to listen to the first drive of the Browns game in the car on the way home from Hebrew school with your sister. And so, with that in mind, on Sunday, the Browns, the big winners, getting their first victory of the season over the Titans. What did you see out of that first drive, which I didn't get to witness? I only got to hear the new voice of the Browns, Andrew Siciliano, and it was a heck of a drive, 16 plays. What did you think of the Browns offense?
I think in that very first drive, they were definitely focused on time of possession.
Yeah,
So they were doing some good running with Foreman, um, and then they made the passes when they need to. A scary third down conversion to Judy bounced off the DB's hands right into Judy. First down, nearly picked. But other than that, pretty good, and was able to get into the end zone.
yeah, it was a bit of a different offense than what the Browns displayed the week before against Dallas, which was rather unsuccessful. And to an extent, we still don't know what this offense is going to be. We went from 4 years of Kevin Stefanski with Alex Van Pelt as his offensive coordinator. And clearly, Kevin Stefanski's type of offense was a type of offense where it would feature a passer that could go back, drop back, do the play action. That's why Joe Flacco did so well. And he was able to elevate other passers. Really wasn't getting that out of Deshaun Watson, the very costly quarterback for the Browns. And going into the season and going into last week, we had, we've got this new offensive coordinator, Ken Dorsey, but he's not calling the plays, and that's okay. So this offense is supposed to be getting installed. Yet, none of the players played, in the preseason. Factory of Sadness, thank you for chiming in. Mike Pellegrini, thank you for chiming in. Need to run more, go with what works. Watson doesn't work. Now, we're going to get to that in a moment here. A very interesting point there. So let's go through this. But the Browns do get the victory. And it was very interesting to see the change in the philosophy from week one to week two. Again, we were dealing with still a little bit of a banged up offensive line. We were also without David Njoku, and Amari Cooper and Deshaun Watson have yet to really get things up to speed here. Factory of Sadness commenting, costly quarterback to just be a facilitator. Now, that was an interesting quote today in the discussion. So let's go over to find out what was going on in Berea today. So first of all, I just wanted to say, if Browns fans were aware, Myles Garrett said after the game that he had a bit of a foot issue that was limiting. Denzel Ward, he was also on a quote unquote pitch count, and and so he only played 11 snaps in the game. But as far as I could tell, and again, we're going to play some quotes and some clips here from Berea today. Sounds like Denzel Ward's all good to go. Sounds like from Mary Kay Cabot, Myles Garrett is going to be good to go. Also, good news on the offensive line. DeJuan Jones sat out today with a soreness in his knee, the same one that he had surgery on. But Jack Conklin was a full participant. So let's take a listen in here from Kevin Stefanski, today's press conference, as he answers a question about DeJuan Jones and his knee.
The knee injury to Dewan. First off, did it occur during the game? And secondly, What is his status for this week? Is this? I'm sure you're going to say day to day, but I mean,
took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah, he's injury occurred in the game. He's out today, but can't really go past today.
So again, there's Kevin Stefanski talking about DeJuan Jones. But again, DeJuan Jones himself, there were multiple tweets from the Browns beat reporters indicating he is going to be fine for Sunday. Going forward, then they asked Stefanski about the other offensive tackle situation. We've got Jed Wills, who has been out since last season, Jack Conklin out since last season. And let's see what Coach Kevin Stefanski had to say here about Jack Conklin and Jed Wills.
And Jed, as far as their
practicing today. So we'll see. I think, and I understand the questions, guys. I would just tell you, with any injury, you have to concern yourself with that day, how they feel in practice, how they feel coming out of practice, those type of things.
And so then, now this is something that's great, guys. Now you tell me here, and I want to continue to get to the comments here. Factory of Sadness commenting on the Denzel Ward thing, and I will get to a small clip of Denzel Ward. Mike from the UK, thank you for staying up late with us, chiming in here. I'm sure you're busy watching the Guardians. Talking about Myles Garrett, kind of guy who can sit out practice most of the time, play at almost full capacity come game days, and similar to Joe Thomas. And I think that is 100% on point. Also talking about Conklin and Wills have missed 11 straight games. So here's a great quote, because they go back in a follow-up question. And Jacob, you tell me, because maybe I'm just being a bit critical here, but they ask him about DeJuan Jones, right? So about and his knee. Play this.
he had the surgery on last year.
I don't know that. Yeah.
You don't know that? You don't know that? I mean, okay. Now, tell me, am I crazy here? You ask the guy, is it the same knee for DeJuan Jones that he injured last year and had surgery on? You don't know? You know what knee is injured. You know what knee he had surgery on. Am I being too critical here, Jacob? Or am I kind of, is this warranted? My overreaction warranted?
This is definitely warranted. I'm not sure how you can, did he forget?
Yeah,
You gotta know those things.
Well, and I think it's more so, it's not even knowing it. It's that he's trying to be, maybe. We've seen him be so vague so often. It's, what are you supposed to think? And exactly what factory is it? What do you expect from him? So exactly. I mean, and I understand he's trying to be slick. And I think that's like an old school Bill Belichick thing. Tell you nothing. And Mike, how don't the head coach not know? I'm lost for words. Exactly. See, we're all okay. I'm not losing my mind here. I'm on point here. All right. So then now we continue on along the questions here. And we just talked about this, Jacob. So what is this team on offense? Are we going to be running this Dorsey type offense? Are we going to be running the old Kevin Stefanski offense? What exactly is it? So they asked that about to coach, and let's hear what he has to say.
This offensive identity right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't get too specific in what we're doing, other than to say we want to score some points, protect the football, play complementary ball.
Gee, do you think so? You want to play complimentary football, protect it, and score some points. Really? Is that the goal of the game? Because I didn't know that. I honestly had no idea that was the goal of the game. So, again, was that Captain Obvious, or am I overreacting, or was that just Captain Obvious?
I mean, he's trying to be slick, and he did that all offseason, and we got blown out by the Cowboys. It did nothing to help us.
Right.
Nothing.
Exactly. Trying to win the public relations game. is very, very tricky. So let's move on here, if we can. A few more. I've got few more quotes lined up here. So now the game, and Mike, thank you again stating the obvious. That's how you win. Damn. uh, but field goal every series is scored. You know what? And factory of sadness, we're going to get to field goals because this week's opponent, the New York Giants, they lost and they didn't even give up a touchdown. How are you going to they managed to do something no team has ever done after they scored 3 touchdowns and lost, gave up 7 field goals to the Commanders, did the Giants. So now that game, the Browns game, was way too close and way too exciting. Browns had a chance to shut it down, and they had some ridiculous penalties, and then they get a safety, they get the ball back, and they've got a chance to at least make it very difficult, leave very little time for the Jaguars. If they had gotten a first down, I believe they could have, run it out. But they did not do that. They were in a 3rd and 6 situation. And we all know what happened when we watched the game. It was near disaster. Let's hear what Coach Stefanski had to say. I've got a couple of quotes here. All right.
You move forward, how do you make sure that something doesn't happen like it did at the end of the game on 3rd and 6, where I'm sure you articulated to Deshaun exactly what you needed to happen there, and it didn't go that way?
Yeah, I think every game, Mary Kay, has learning lessons for our players and for our coaches as well. And I think there's some unique situations that come up. We had a onside kick after a safety. These are all things that you cover throughout the season, but you maybe covered it a week ago or 2 weeks ago, whatever it may be. So it's constant dialogue with your players, understanding situational football, understanding all these situations that come up. So it's just a learning moment for everybody.
Tell him in the headset, exactly. I mean, did you remind him what he needed to do there, or how did that go in the heat of the moment?
We're moving on to New York, but I understand what you're asking.
I get a question on it.
So just before we get to the follow-up question, so my thought there is that Kevin did a nice job. He didn't throw Deshaun under the bus there. It sounded like after the game he said he was a little bit ticked with him for that particular play, but he didn't throw him under the bus. Good move or bad move, Jacob? Was that the right move not to throw him under the bus?
I think that was the right move.
Probably not good to mess with a guy who's got what I might say is a lot on his plate, a relatively fragile ego, and we've got to try to prop him up as much as possible. So then again, the further question to Coach Stefanski.
Situation though, that whole end of the game, do you run it or do you try to get the first down to end the game?
Well, I think 4-minute football, these games are so close at the end, right? So it's 2-minute for the offense trying to go down and score. Sometimes it's 4-minute where you're trying to protect a lead. That was a 4-minute situation for us. So we ran it on 1st and 2nd down, didn't get enough yards to get into a manageable 3rd down. So now you're trying to make sure the clock is rolling in those instances. But there's plenty of times in games where you have to make a decision in terms of how aggressive do you want to be. Do you want to try to go end the game right then and there, to your point, Mary Kay? And I think that maybe came up in one of the primetime games recently. So those are all decisions that you make based on the down and distance, based on the play that you maybe have available to you.
So, Mike, thank you for hopping in. We were complaining about children and how they ruin our schedules, right?
Yeah, they just ruined my schedule, but it was for a good cause. We had back to school night at middle school. I'm back. I know all about the struggles of middle school yet again.
Oh, yes, even better. It's kind of funny, and I take a break there because we were just listening through the press conference today from Berea. Kevin Stefanski got some clips of him, some clips of Deshaun, and kind of breaking those down a little bit to talk about Sunday's ball game. And it's kind of funny, Jacob. I thanks to COVID, I didn't really have to go to any back to school for you in middle school. And then this year, Jacob's sister, my youngest, Aaliyah, she's in 6th grade. And so they had an open house, sort of, where you could walk your schedule. That was before the school year. And then they did have a back to school night. And she comes home and she tells me, she's like, She told her one teacher, yeah, we're probably not going to come. Like,
Yeah, you know what baffles me? I know we're getting off topic here. Is how many different apps and websites they have to go to now to complete their homeworks and do tests. Like I miss the days when it was just, here's my school book. I open it up, I do the work, and I bring it back to school. It's hard for me to follow. I don't know how the kids do it nowadays.
I don't know. Jacob, do you manage?
I mean, for my teachers, it's really only one application that they use. So
You're very lucky. You're very lucky. All right. So, here's an interesting question. So, Mike from the UK comments talking about the play after the safety. Now, so Mike, actually, that was an onside kick. It's a different version of it. It was a free ball. He had to punt it. And my understanding is that they had an opportunity to recover it after 10 yards, just like an onside kick, but it couldn't be kicked off a tee. It had to be punted since it was after the safety. And you don't normally see that. And so, Factory of Sadness, he's chiming in here. We're talking about what you do in the various situations, et cetera. Stupid Fansky. I was thinking exactly that in some of those moments, but I guess really that was more stupid Watson.
Are we talking about that last incomplete
Yes,
play?
we are. Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. And we're going to get to, I've got a clip of Watson and his commentary on that play. So here we are. We are going further. And Mike, yep, it was a punt. Haha, exactly. Okay. All right. So going forward here, the next thing I've got was something that they were talking about. And Mike, Jacob and I were discussing the offense for the Browns and how we really still, what is it? Is it going to be, what is the Ken Dorsey offense? What are they doing? And during the press conference, they talked to Kevin about the trend. The plays from yards or the average play from scrimmage is not very long, and it's not just the Browns. It is across the league. So let's hear what Kevin had to say about this trend of in the early going for teams.
2 games, but teams across the league are throwing it shorter than they have in a really long time. Have you noticed that? And is that a product of 2 high safeties, or why do you think that is?
I saw there was a good article yesterday I saw on that. Yeah, I think it's definitely the increase in 2 high safeties is a big part of it. The decrease in man, the increase in zone defense, I think factors into it. It's a small sample size early in this season, so but I do think that you're seeing more of the defense play a 2 high look, which can be a variety of coverages, but that protects you in theory versus some deeper shots and maybe makes the ball be thrown into some check down areas more often than the 3 deep, where you can maybe rip a seam, rip a go ball, those type of things.
Defense's evolution to what we saw the last few years?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think there's definitely an evolution going on every year in football, and it's something. Offensive football is changing. Pre-snap motion, I think, is one thing that is totally different than it was 10 years ago. And sometimes I do this, go put on tape from 10 years ago, and the quarterback maybe is under center on 3rd and 6, and there's no motion. If it is motion, it's super slow. People are just lining up in 2x2, 3x1. It just doesn't look like the same game. On the defensive side, every defensive end is in a 3-point stance. Nobody's rotating late in the shot clock. And then there was a lot of man and closing the middle of the field. So I think it's both sides. It's change and evolve as a response to the other side. So I think it's constantly ongoing, but I would say for this season, it's probably a little early in a small sample size to make too many proclamations, if you will.
So did he just call it the shot clock?
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of excuses to me.
Hey-o.
Now, I don't know if you ever listened to the Terry's Talking podcast with Terry Pluto. He does it every Tuesday.
I did not have a chance to hear that. Tell me about it.
Well, they had an interesting stat today, and I don't have the specific numbers, and I was actually just looking for the article they based this off of. But they said through the first 2 games of the NFL season, like 3 years ago in 2021, there's something like 130 total touchdown passes. And the next year is like 120. The year after that, it was like down to 89. And then this year, after the first two, it's like 68 total touchdown passes after the first two games. So they've almost cut in half. And the article that they referenced didn't really give a reason as to why. It sounds like Kevin was trying to, talk his way through why, but it seems to be a league-wide phenomenon. But what gets me through all of that, and I don't really care how you score touchdowns. It doesn't seem like the points are any lower, just, from what I see. But the Browns have scored 17 and 18 points, 17 in week 1 and 18 in week 2. So that's not a way to win if you're that low scoring. No, no matter who you're playing or how you're getting the touchdowns. I think that's the bigger concern.
Yeah, definitely so. And the issues with the the connection with Amari Cooper, having the injury to David Njoku, battling, with some offensive line play that's less than stellar, not as good as we've had in the past. And hopefully that'll get better and they will do some more. But did you think, just as a whole, Mike, that, and I heard this on the radio as I thought about him, like, maybe did Kevin Stefanski kind of pull in the reins this going into this past Sunday and say, look, we're going to simplify this. We're going to do X, Y, and Z. We got to win this game.
Yeah, I'm 100%. That's what it looked like. He brought in the extra offensive linemen to line up his tight ends for extra blocking. He had a lot more short passes, like you were just talking about, like the clips were. So he wasn't holding on to the ball 4, 5, 6 seconds like he was week 1. They were forcing him to get it out, which is what he needed to do. I think that's what we're all yelling at our TV screens week 1. Like, what are you doing? But he still had a few of those in this game too. But you're right. I think they designed the offense more around that. Still only netted him 18 points, but it looked better, at least.
It did. Baby steps. Baby steps is kind of what I thought, and a win is a win. That's what I thought. Now, earlier, or it was noticed during the game, and I guess I didn't pay that close of attention to it. Did you happen to notice that Ward wasn't out there a lot?
No, look like Jacob. You probably, I think, noticed that. You seem to analyze a lot better than I do. But yeah, until I read the story the next day, I didn't realize that it was only like 10% of the plays he was out there.
Yeah, he played 11 snaps. And Jacob, did you realize that during the game?
Near the second half, definitely in the fourth quarter, I would think a lot of Emerson, Newsome, and then I saw a lot of Cam Mitchell. I was like,
yes, we did see a lot of Mitchell.
I was like, was that 4 corners but it turns out that was no Denzel.
Right. And Denzel Ward, I did find, and this is the audio quality when they're in the locker room and not at a podium, but they asked Ward about his shoulder. Sounds like Grossi was talking to him, and we got that here.
Denzel, how's your shoulder? Going to be on a pitch count this week in practice and in the game?
I'm feeling great. Ready to get to the game and ready to roll.
So he said, ready to get to the game, ready to roll. And they asked him about, I guess when the shoulder injury occurred.
My shoulder? First game. I feel good.
So Denzel Ward, I know that was nothing. That was much ado about nothing there. But it sounds like he's going to be all right and be able to go, which will definitely be important because as we get to analyzing this week's matchup, the Giants and their first round draft pick, Malik Neighbors, they force feed him the ball. He's got 25 targets in 2 games. So Denzel and the other corners are going to need to be on top of that. And that's another, Mike from the UK, you mentioned the Kareem Hunt signing. He signed onto the practice squad with the Chiefs as they are down. Did Pacheco get injured for them?
Yeah, Pacheco.
So the Browns did not sign him, but I think Foreman did a nice job for the Browns being the physical runner. The Browns had to bring in the running back. He had been with the Rams. Freeman, am I getting Royce Freeman? Is that correct? I'm shooting from the hip here. But Pierre Strong with, I think, a hamstring injury. So the Browns are down a little bit there, and they're trying to muddle their way through.
But by the way, talking about people going out, was
Uh-huh.
that tackle of David Bell a hip drop tackle? I'm still trying to figure that out because that's now an illegal tackle, and it injured him. You know, hip drop's been a illegal tackle. The tackle that he had injured him, and as I understand, a hip drop is when a defensive player wraps you up and then just drops his weight, and you're a dead weight on the guy. That's what it looked like to me, but I didn't see any analysis or any talk about that at all after the game. And I think this is what they're trying to prevent is injuries like this.
Yeah, I don't know. Jacob, I did not, and I mean, Mike, I did not see anything. Jacob, did you see any analysis of the tackle of David Bell that ended his season?
No, but I think maybe that there
Oh,
was
but you think maybe?
something.
Can you answer that a little more clearly, sir?
Sorry, I'm sounding like Stefanski.
Yes. You do your best impression. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I saw something somewhere, saying saying that like I'm pretty that was a hip drop tackle on Bell that did not get called.
Okay, so you did see something of that. I had
So,
not read that.
and that's the second one because that's how Njoku got hurt too, even though they didn't call that
Yeah,
either. So
exactly.
2 injuries, 0 flags on either of those.
Yep, and we just got word. Thank you, Mike from the UK, for keeping us informed here. Josh Naylor goes distance again. 2 long balls for David, or pardon me, for Josh Naylor at the corner of Carnegie and Ontario. We will get to the Guardians momentarily and talk about their chance to potentially clinch a playoff spot here this evening. So then you go. So we just heard a lot of stuff from Kevin Stefanski. And of course, it's always interesting to hear what the quarterback has to say. And I like to compare some of the things he said to some of the things Stefanski said to try and see where those fit. Now, as we go over to Deshaun Watson, the first thing was just his talking about his connection with Cooper. And Mike, I think, what was the stat on the number or the amount of targets, connections with Cooper that you've got there?
So for both games, this is both games combined, 5 receptions on 17 targets for 27 yards.
That is brutal. That is absolutely brutal. Thank goodness, Jerry Jeudy. Let's hope he can stay healthy. He seems to be. He's definitely got some skill. I like what he can do out there. I just watched a clip of former quarterback, Buccaneers quarterback Sean King. Does that name ring a bell, Mike?
Not at all.
Yeah, he was talking with I don't know his actually Mikey McNuggets from the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, and was breaking down the play on the nice out that he threw to Jeudy for, I guess, maybe about 30 yards at some point. He was talking about it could have been even more. But let's take a listen to Watson talk about his connection with Amari Cooper.
That you and Amari just really haven't really been able to connect yet the way everybody expects you to.
I mean, it's part of the game. It sometimes depends on the defensive coordinators and the way they scheme. Sometimes it's the way that, the game is kind of playing out. But, we never lose faith in each other. And, it's a long season, and we're just going to continue to work and figure it out, But when it do click, it's definitely going to be very exciting for both of us.
You get the whole to get things going? What are your conversations like during the week to try to jumpstart it?
We're just working. We just keep working, keep talking about what we're seeing on tape, what we're seeing on film, how we running certain routes versus different defenders and different schemes. And that's all we can do, just keep working. And when it comes on game day, trying to execute that plan that we build throughout the week.
The Browns lead the league.
And so moving forward, so that's his analysis there on Cooper. It sounds like I'm not going to make a huge deal out of it. It certainly is important that he gets on track with him, and hopefully that connection comes through, because we've got to have playmakers out there. So
yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I was just gonna say before you moved off the Cooper topic too. Didn't we have this conversation last year too at the beginning of the season when Watson and Cooper really couldn't connect, and then Flacco comes on board and he goes off like all-time reception or receiving yardage record in Houston during the regular season game. It
Right.
just seems like Cooper fits so much better with a pocket passer because he's such a precise route runner than what Watson's skill set is.
Right, which is the elusiveness. But Jacob, you and I were at the Browns game against Arizona last year, and Watson and Cooper connected a few times there, nice deep ball. So there were some things, but I hear what you're saying, Mike, and like you said, with the preciseness of his route running. And I've got a quote here, a clip of Watson talking about his type of play, the quote unquote like elusiveness and such. But let's talk here. So this is a question about the penalties and the impact on the offense.
We
Deshaun, the Browns lead the league in penalties. So my question is, being behind the sticks as often as you are, how does that curtail what you can do?
I mean, that's definitely not the game plan, and that's not what we want to be. We just got to correct those. We got to lock in a little bit more on the details of, the operation, and it starts with that. And if we can clean up that, I think that we can be a lot more successful, especially offensively. But yeah, we're definitely aware of that, and we is definitely a point of emphasis for this team.
Okay, so again, this is my moment. You missed this, Mike. This is another. Gee, do you think so? You might need to clean that up. Not being in 3rd and 12 all the time might be a good thing. So
yeah, it sounds like though, 100%. Like well, they have I got it written down here: 13 penalties for 100 yards this game, 11 penalties for 64 yards in week 1. But I saw somewhere that Stefanski's in his 4 years here has never he's always been in the bottom 10 for penalties per game for all 4 of the seasons. So this isn't a new thing. This apparently is a Stefanski and a Browns thing.
Yeah, Browns lead the league in penalties. Stop it! You're lying. Stop it! Stop whining. Yeah, no doubt. What is it? What is it? No cap. No cap here. Is that right, Jacob? Am I getting that using cap? No cap correctly? No cap. So then going on now here, this is where I wanted to compare and contrast. Here is Watson's response about the 3rd and 6th play, and I thought this was interesting, and we might dive into it.
Making sure that something like this doesn't happen in the future. Can you sort of explain what your thinking was on the 3rd and 6th there instead of?
First of all, I have to pause that because it just crossed my mind. Does anyone think that sounds like your mother saying, now, what can we do next time so this doesn't happen again? You know what I'm talking about, too. I mean, it just happened.
Jacob knows.
Yeah, I know nothing about these things. Now, what can we do next time, folks, to make sure that doesn't happen again? Okay, sorry. Let me finish the clip here. Go back.
Instead of just taking a sack and letting the 40 seconds run off, kind of take us through what you were kind of told to do or what you did do or what you saw on that play.
I saw a touchdown, but you got to give Allen a great play. Credit, making a great play. Tillman, he did his job of selling the block. We got outside and he ran a corner. The corner popped open, but Allen, he beat me to my spot to where I wanted to throw it, and that's pretty much it.
Said a couple of times.
So again, he's saying, well, I saw him break open and he was going to take that opportunity. And we saw how that backfired for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
That was designed or not, the fact that, like, look, you're taking a high risk there that you could eat up clock if you just run the ball. You may not get a first down, but if you take the high percentage play, and the Eagles was a very high percentage play, Barkley needs to catch the stupid ball. But nevertheless, the situation is, look, you run the ball, the clock keeps moving, and you chew another 40 seconds off the clock here. Instead, you almost had a disaster. It could have been a strip sack. It could have been picked off. Anything. This was the least of the worst things that could have happened. The fact that the clock stopped. We talk here about the connection with Jerry Jeudy in light of the issues with Cooper, as we just discussed. Let's hear what Watson had to say about that.
Phil.
Important has Jerry been in these first 2 games? And does it feel like you guys are on the same page when it comes to those scramble situations? It feels like you've been able to connect it multiple times.
Yeah, he's just been in the right spots at the right time. And I tell all my guys is just to be able to, play is never over until it's over. So, you never know when the ball might come to you, regardless if I'm looking your direction or not. So, just constantly, playing to the final whistle. That's always been my motto since I've been growing up. And yeah, he's just been in the right spots and been making big plays for us.
So again, so that kind of goes to what you're talking about, Mike, in that he is a freewheeler, and you have to keep your eyes on him. And I think that takes time for players to develop that. And we haven't had that opportunity because of his own stupidity and the suspension, and then the unfortunate injury. Just haven't have time to form that. That's one of the things that's great about the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey. I mean, Kelsey knows to just keep going and finds the spots, and Mahomes can keep things alive. And it's an amazing skill to have if you can take advantage of it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna draw a little parallel here to the Cavs, where what offseason moves did the Cavs make this year? Like none, besides re-signing all of their players. I think the Cavs are trying to get to that point where they are going to grow just through being together, just like the Chiefs did, just like we were hoping the Browns would do. But like you said, Watson hasn't been available for that. But you can definitely grow a team that way just by playing together through all these years. So, yeah, legit strategy. We're not there yet at all.
Not yet, but hopefully so. And we'll get to kind of how that there's still a hope for that, considering what is going on right now, even though it's only been 2 weeks. So again, now we're talking about the question about his kind of shiftiness, movement in the pocket, etc.
Slipperiness, your elusiveness was really on display in this game. It almost seems maybe even more so than in some other games that you played here. Do you feel like there's just so much more to come with that, and that is probably one of your strengths, and it's really going to serve you well as you move forward?
Yeah, I mean, that's always been part of my game since high school, college, even in the pros. I mean, I've always been that type of player to, try to make the first two guys miss and then get, make something happen after that. So, yeah, it's just something that is just part of me, I guess.
Sometimes with those situations, they just have to let you be you, and sometimes you have to take a little bit of bad with the good, because the good is going to outweigh the bad, and you're just going to make a play.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that most coaches don't really coach in a sense. It's just kind of letting your guys be the guys and make those plays, and we're gonna take our chances with that. And sometimes in certain situations you got to be smart, but at the end of the day, I've always told Kevin, I play off my instincts, and one coach always told me to never go against my instincts and gut feeling. So. And I definitely have so much respect from that coach. Yeah, he's been pretty right since. It was Coach O'Brien.
So he goes on and gives credit there to Coach O'Brien. Way to go, throw your coach under the bus. Woof.
Maybe he should start going against his instincts.
Yeah, I know.
Stop it.
Yeah, it hasn't served him very well off the field. Let's just say that.
Or on the field. At least lately.
He's certainly, again, I think we all were hoping, and the Browns ownership, probably most specifically, and then down to Andrew Berry, really when they made the move to get Watson there, hoping that he can do all those things that he showed in Houston. But certainly, I don't think that the drama is over. Let me put it that way. I think there's more to come. In texting this morning or the other day with former co-host Madison, the OG of Going Nuclear, she said, look, that attorney Busby is out of town. He's dealing with whatever high profile case. That guy, I got issues with him, but nevertheless, it sounds like the accuser in this new case is going to be speaking to the league within the next couple of weeks. You know what's going to happen here, guys? Should we count on the Browns having some great win or two and Watson looking fantastic, and then the league says, that's it, you're suspended for the rest of the year? Would that be the most browniest thing ever?
Yeah,
Yep.
now that you said it, it's probably gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, last year, he got rolling, injured, got rolling again, injured.
Yeah, it's really terrible. So, I had one more clip, but I don't think it's really kind of that big of a deal here. I guess, Mike, what was your overall assessment of the Browns' victory over the Jaguars?
I still can't get over why we can't make adjustments in the second half. It happened in both games, really. We only scored 5 points in the second half of the Jacksonville game. We started out so strong, and it seems like other teams are able to make adjustments on us, but we can't do the same thing to them. So I'm happy we won, but that really concerns me. And I mean, even though we scored what 7 or whatever 10 in the second half the first week, those were all garbage minutes, so you can't really count those. So that's number one. And number two, the defense played really well this game, but we still haven't forced a turnover all season. And I think it's going to happen. We had opportunities, but that's a little concerning as well for the best defense in the world.
Yeah, and I really hate that. Do you find that to be the most obnoxious thing last year? Oh, they're the best defense. No.
Yeah.
Use your eyes. I don't care. Let's not talk about some lame analytic metric that you're using. Let's use our eyes. Yes, were they lights out at home? 100%. Did they play a bunch of crappy quarterbacks at home? Pretty much. Yes. They were able to skirt by. No Kyler Murray when the Cardinals came to town. A beat up Joe Burrow in the rain when Cincinnati played in week 1. Lamar did well, and we were hosed that game because we had DTR getting told he's going to play quarterback 90 minutes before, but there were other games we just avoided a lot of the tougher quarterbacks, and we'll see what the Browns are really made of this year. Their road performances were horrific. There were guys running wide ass open. I was like, oh no, did Schwartz transform into Joe Woods, Woods again? No. So yeah, I think though we've dropped a number of potential interceptions, and Myles Garrett does have both of his sacks are strip sacks. So when he's able to get to the quarterback, despite all the holding and the lack of holding calls, he's still very effective. And if he can cause double teams and free up anybody else, like an Alex Wright, who got the safety, that's going to be, I think, a recipe for victory is those other guys being able to step up here. If you had an MVP of the game, guys, who would your game ball go to? Jacob, who's your game ball going to?
Corey
Coleman?
Oh no, Bajorquez.
Oh, that guy. Do you guys remember that there was a dude who would go on ESPN Cleveland all like last year and say it was Corey Bojorquez's fault that Cade York was missing field goals? They were.
Look at him now. I
Ex-
wonder what he's doing.
exactly. York shanked a few in Washington. He's gone. So now we get. Hey, this
We got him
weekend.
back.
Did we get him? Did we re-sign him?
No, but we should. We
Oh,
should
no.
get him back.
No.
He's gonna turn out. He's gonna make it. I have
All right,
confidence and faith.
All right, you've got more faith than I do, my friend. No, Mike, what about you? I mean, I'm going to join Jacob. The special teams were very special.
Yeah, you can't argue with that. If I had to pick a number 2, I would maybe Dustin Hopkins. I got costly penalty, yes, but he's been solid.
Oh,
kicking the ball.
100%, and it is so nice so far. And I'm going to knock on this fake wood here, even though that's not a Jewish thing, to be knocking on wood. To have a reliable kicker is just so important. And talking about kickers, so actually we're going to have a return here on Sunday for the Giants. First of all, the Scottish Hammer returns as the punter, Jamie Gillen. And also, if I got it correct, the place kicker coming in now because Graham Gano's injury, and they screwed the pooch on that one. Greg Joseph, former Cleveland Brown, and although he is a member of my tribe, our tribe, Jacob, he stinks. He's not very good. He was in a long line of terrible kickers, and that penalty on Hopkins. What is that all about? What is he going to do?
Why is that even a rule? Like, what a dumb
That's
rule.
it's such a stupid rule. It gives you no advantage for breaking the rule, and there's probably been multiple instances throughout the league where a kicker has crossed the 50 before it's been touched, and no penalties.
Yeah,
So I think it's really picky, just really picky.
of course
Just
it is.
yeah,
Only
just
only
it
touchdown.
contributes nothing to the play, changes nothing.
You mean, Jacob, if you were a place kicker, you weren't going to run down there then after crossing the 50 and kamikaze the guy for a tackle?
No.
Okay, I thought
We don't even want Dustin Hopkins running very fast for
No.
long periods of time at all.
Exactly. Tim Misney means business here. He's going to make him pay if he does that. I don't want any
Yeah.
nonsense there. We talked earlier in the show, Mike, before you joined us here. It looks like Conklin was a full participant for the Browns today. And Jed Will still a little bit behind. DeJuan Jones did not practice today with a sore knee, but he says allegedly he's going to be all right. And again, here I'm looking at the injury report. Conklin, a full participant. Emerson, full participant. Garrett did not practice. They said no Njoku this week. Hopefully he is back sooner rather than later. Jed Wills was limited in practice. Jamari Thrash with an illness. I would love to see Jamari Thrash have a chance to make an impact here. So what are we more surprised about, guys, in the AFC North? The fact that Baltimore and Cincinnati are 0-2, or that Pittsburgh is 2-0?
I'm gonna go with Baltimore 0-2 specifically. I think Bengals they don't have the best starts every year. But for the Ravens, a loss to the Chiefs, that's acceptable. Chiefs are really good. It was by one cleat size.
Yes.
And then but against the Raiders, not
At
sure
home.
about that one.
Yeah, against Minshew Magic, they might have some holes in their team. What about you, Mike? What do you think? What are you most surprised by?
Yeah, the 0-2 starts by both of those teams. I mean, the Steelers, they didn't really play anybody, so yeah, their defense can get by on those games. I think reality is gonna come and hit them in the face here soon. But there's some stat that teams that start 0-2, only like 10% of those teams ever make the playoffs. So, if that's true, that kind of puts the Browns in a very good position right now. It seems like the Ravens talking, we live close to Baltimore here, talking to some Ravens fans over here. They are just, they say they don't have an offensive line, and that's just killing them. And that's why they can't get their run game going. That's not giving Lamar a lot of time.
They got Derrick Henry. Didn't you hear? King Henry. Oh, King Henry. Everybody all stupid offseason was slobbering all over themselves for Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry. He's old and slow.
And if you don't have an offensive line to protect him, he's not going to go very far.
Exactly. Okay, yeah, Pittsburgh always finds a way, much as I dislike them. Factory of sadness. Okay, here's the stat. Here it is. So, first of all, Justin Tucker missed 2 50-plus yard field goals so far this season. That's crazy. All of a sudden, he's not hitting from distance. Also, Mike chimes in 13 and 131 is the amount of teams I think that like about that 10% that made the finishing 0-2. But the Bengals have done it. And Pittsburgh plays the Chargers this week, and I'm really not rooting for the Chargers and Khaki Man, but I'm rooting against Justin Fields and the crappy Steelers. So moving on here, we'll get back to the NFL here very shortly as we will put in our picks and go over our records from last week. The Guardians, as we mentioned a little earlier, the magic number to get into the playoffs is first of all, it takes three things happening this evening for the Guardians to get into the playoffs. One is a win over Minnesota. 2 is a win by Detroit over Kansas City, I believe. And yes, and 3 is a Seattle loss versus the Yankees. So we'll have to wait and see what's happening. Mike, do you have an eye on the score? Looks like we're going to the bottom of the ninth, tied at 2.
Yep, that's correct. For that game, we have Detroit up on KC 4-1 right now in the 4th inning. So a lot of time to play that game, and Yankees and Mariners haven't started yet.
Exactly. So over at the corner of Carnegie and Ontario, and just to give us a little flavor, how about we go to a little Tom Hamilton for the first of 2 home runs here by Josh Naylor this evening. I feel like that is something worthy of our viewing here. So let's take a look at that, and let's hear from Tom Hamilton. Oh, well.
Hit a ton! Oh, way out of here to right! We are tied at 1!
Nothing sweeter, as I've said, nothing sweeter than the sound of Tom Hamilton and a home run call. Miles Straw.
Just, yeah, laugh. I mean, I don't know what he did deserve to come back to the Guardians.
Didn't have anybody else. We didn't have anybody else. What about Jonathan Rodriguez? He's an outfielder. Why wouldn't we call up somebody who can actually hit the stupid ball?
Yeah, great question. I don't know, but the fact that he got called up and then got picked off first base in his first appearance. Well, I mean, that was like, I don't know, like what he did to deserve that kind of karma, but man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And Mike chiming in here on the so once the Tigers to win, capturing the AL Central is most important here for the Guardians as we are trying to chase down on the magic numbers. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Emmanuel Clase the other day got his 46th save, tying a team record for saves in a season, I believe with former Joe Table. Joe Table previously held the record, correct, Mike?
That Joe Table. Yeah, Jose. Yeah, I got you, Jose Mesa. Yeah.
Jose Mesa.
You got it.
Yeah, so a great feat by Emmanuel Clase. I heard an argument this morning between on ESPN Cleveland, Aaron Goldhammer. They had on Evan Cohen from Unsportsmanlike, the ESPN national radio show, and they were having an argument about where Clase's season matches up with the Cy Young or the seasons past, in the prime of Mariano Rivera.
Yeah. You know what else is impressive? Just watching the broadcast tonight, they mentioned that Cade Smith is 8 strikeouts away from having the record for most strikeouts by a reliever in Indians history.
That is just
That, folks, is the definition of prediction.
Well, I apologize. I'm trying to do too many things at once here. Okay, so let's see what else is going on with the Guardians. And part of the reason that we saw Miles Straw up here is Quan out with a sore back, put on the 10-day injured list. We definitely have to have him back to lead this team into the playoffs. He's just as important as anybody in the lineup, in my opinion. Mike, kind of what are your thoughts about the lineup and what they're doing and as we push toward the playoffs?
Yeah, what's amazing is like every week we come on, every Wednesday and we're like, gosh, man, the Guardians are blowing it. How are they still doing this? They're playing horribly. But every week they're they're leading the Central and they're like a game out of first place, for the number 1 seed. So somehow they keep doing it. And it's number 1 is the bullpen. And then it's just a combination of like decent starting pitching and decent hitting, like just enough to get by, and the formula seems to be working. And I just love how they play too. The hustle, the hard 90s, the hustle plays, the great defense. I think doesn't get talked about enough. But how many times have they thrown out a runner at home, or held a runner to a long single instead of a double because they get the ball in, like doing the fundamentals. I love seeing that kind of stuff.
It really is for the baseball purist. I mean, that's not necessarily me, but I can appreciate it. And they certainly have done a great job. And again, as we've talked, right now, it doesn't appear if it's not the question of if they're going to make the playoffs. It's a matter of when they clinch and what position they are in. Mike, you mentioned this and you talked about the possible seeding. What are your thoughts about, do we push hard all the way to the end to get the number one? If we're locked in at the number two, do we kind of let our foot off the gas? What do you think?
I think it's absolutely imperative you have to have the number two. Like, get that bye, especially with the state of our pitching staff. You need to have that. And it looks like the magic number right now is 7 to at least get the number 2 seed. So that's, they have to, at least be ahead of Houston for that. As far, they're only like, I think it's a game behind the Yankees right now for number 1. I think they play hard to get that number 1 seed too. They have, I think, the best home record still in the American League. And if you can guarantee yourself the home field advantage throughout, at least the American League playoffs, that's going to be huge. So I think knowing you're going to get a first round bye, if you lock up that number 2 seed, you push hard to the end of the season to try to get that number 1, knowing you're going to have a week off because you're going to have a bye regardless. So I say you go hard, until the end, trying to get that number 1 seed. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, Jacob, I don't know. I mean, based upon how the Browns did last year when they took the last week off, what do you think? Think you just go to the end and keep pushing?
I know hardly nothing about baseball. I know the basics.
Well, you don't know how to speak English either. You don't know hardly nothing. I'm sending you back to the elementary school, sir. No, I understand. And
Yeah.
but I guess from the perspective of, you don't want to let your foot off the gas and lose momentum that you might have. But I think the way this thing sets up, I think either way it's going to be what it's going to be. How many games have we gone where we can barely score a run? We finally get good pitching, can't get any hitting. Someone's slumping. We can't hit a changeup. But I'm with you. I can see it any and all of these ways. So wanted to real quickly here before let's transition over to our NFL picks here as we work toward the end of our show this evening here. So let's go to the week 2 recap, and I will not be able to see you, but you will be able to see me through the power of magic here. So let's go over to the week 2 recap of our picks. We were not nearly as successful in week 2, Jacob, you and I, as we were in week 1. So right there out of the box, that was not good. That was ugly. Mike, you and I, we went 0-4, and the Dolphins, they're in some trouble, kids.
Way to go, Jacob. The only one with a W.
I know.
Slide.
Then we go here. We did. Mike, you split, you go 2-2. Jacob and I end up with a 3-1 there. That was about as good as it got. Next up, I was the only loser who went against the Browns. So I hosed myself there. And moving on to the afternoon and the Monday night, Mike, you split. Jacob and I, we ended up with the 3 out of the 4. The Eagles really screwed the pooch there. And overall, this week, I went 7-9. Jacob, you again, you're on top, 9-7. Mike, you're bringing up the rear there, buddy.
I'm learning. I'm not very good at this.
No, neither am I. That, again, 7-9, not so impressive. Jacob, I'm impressed. Did I tell you, Mike, that this guy failed to tell us that he had predicted the right score of not this most recent Super Bowl, but the Super Bowl before? He guessed the score in a class school. Like, was it 38-35? And you didn't tell me, and I didn't place a bet on it, and I didn't win lots of money because of that. Thank you.
Can I turn over my fantasy team to you, Jacob? I feel like you do much better than I'm doing right now.
Yeah. Woof. So that is what we going into week number 3. And let's go through the picks here. So first up, we are all riding the Jets here. We think that Jacoby Brissett is going to be on the second of his win 1, lose 2. This would be it. So we're all going with the Jets here, Giants and Browns. I'm in. I'm back in. I'm back.
All right. Welcome back to the club.
All right. You can't kick me out this time. Next up. Now, Jacob, you went with the Steelers. Briefly tell us why.
Defense, I think they're going to be able to hold the Chargers run, which has really been what they've been leaning on, and they're going to force Justin Herbert to pass to not the best receiving core in the world. And then again, Steelers, they're going to do the same thing for the past 2 weeks, just enough on offense to give them the win. And then defense really carries them.
All right, fair enough. Moving on. And we all went with the Texans over the Vikings. Sam Darnold has been an early surprise for the Vikings at 2-0. Also, the Texans 2-0. Moving on to the next set of slate here. Jacob, you're putting your faith in the Eagles against the high-flying Saints of New Orleans. Again, you're trusting Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts?
I think they'll have a bounce back from the I would say disappointing loss on Monday Night Football. I think the Saints. I think the car's been hot, but it's gonna cool down.
Okay, overheating in the engine block for Derek Carr and the Saints. They've been on a roll. Oh boy, the Yuccaneers looking to go 3-0, 3-0 behind the Bake Show as they look to get a victory there. The Titans and the Packers. Hopefully nobody vomits on the ball and makes Malik Willis have to try and snap it and then have to run it instead of throw. Did you guys hear that story? Crazy stuff.
No, but I feel like I have to go research it now.
Yes, the center vomited on the ball. The ref did not stop.
Oh, I saw that. Oh, yeah.
And Willis was supposed to pass on a long third down at a kind of critical point, and he ran it because there was vomit on the ball.
Oh,
That's disgusting.
oh.
So we're going to go with the Packers because the Titans, well, they suck. And Will Levis, Hellman's is got to be kicking themselves for giving this guy an endorsement.
I'm going to keep picking the Titans till they win one.
All right. Well, you good luck to you. All right. We got the Bears and the Colts. And we went Colts. Mike, you and I, Jacob, you go with the Bears. You think that Caleb Williams is going to do just enough to let his defense win, right?
Yeah, think I think I seen last week the Colts, they were
terrible. No, I mean
terrible, yes, terrible against the Packers, while the Bears, they hung on against the Texans. But maybe what it is after you lose a close game to the Texans, you play like crap the next game and then go back to normal.
Oh, okay. I like I do like the theory there. We shall see. Next up, we have the Dolphins who are going to be starting. Who are they going? Skylar Thompson, I think, against Smith and the Seahawks. We have all gone with the Seahawks. I think that's a wise pick there. Next up, we've got Cowboys and Ravens. Jacob, you went with the Ravens. You think they're going to bounce back at the Cowboys?
Yeah, it was a close loss to the Raiders for the Ravens, but a blowout from the Saints against the Cowboys. So I think it just works out that the Ravens get one.
Oh,
because I can't see them starting 0-3 on the season.
Well, I'd like to see that.
I would love to see it. I just can't imagine it.
Well, now that you picked them, you ruined it. So we're going to move on to the next game because now that you ruined it, Now, next game, we've got the Lions looking to bounce back from their loss against Baker Mayfield, taking on the Cardinals. Marvin Harrison starting to cook for the Cardinals. We have all gone with bite a kneecap Dan Campbell. Moving on, the hapless Panthers who just benched Bryce Young, who they traded a crap ton of draft picks for to move up. And they benched him. The Raiders, under their sad Gardner Minshew, they should take care of business in Carolina. Moving forward, I believe this is the last set of games here. The Niners and the Rams. Niners looking to bounce back. Great week 1 win, poor week 2 performance. The Niners, we've got them all here. Next up, the Chiefs and the Falcons. Kirk Cousins with a big bounce back against the Eagles. Thank you. Against the Chiefs. Chiefs get lucky in the win over the Bengals. And we've all got the Chiefs flying high for Kansas City, even though most people hate that. The Jaguars and the Bills. Will the Bills go to 3-0? Survey says yes. Then finally, Monday night. This is the other half of the Monday night doubleheader. the Commandos and the Bungles. And we are all looking for the Bungles to get their first win of the season. And that will wrap up our week 3 picks. So quickly here, and I hate to rush through. And guys, and all of our listeners, be sure to tune over here. I am going to be jumping on the premiere podcast of Breezy Browns Talk with Fangirl Sherry. So if you follow me, make sure you check that out. That ought to be fun. I get to share my origin story of my Browns fandom. So I'm just going to say this. I'm going to tell you what's got me going nuclear, because I think it's really important to get this off my chest, guys. What has me going nuclear is that rules only seem to apply to the Browns, and bad things happen to the Browns, and they don't apply to anybody else. On Monday Night Football, the defender from the Philadelphia Eagles pulled his helmet off after he made that tackle, and it should have remained Atlanta ball. It should not have gone back over to Philadelphia. So I don't feel bad that they lost. And I'm just saying that in support of Dwayne Rudd and the Cleveland Browns, who got screwed by the officials. And that has me going nuclear. Mike, what has you going nuclear?
Yeah, real quick. I just read that Tennessee is charging a 10% talent fee for all of its tickets. Yet another way that the NIL is ruining college football.
Yeah, that sucks. And you had a question, Mike, and I'm going to share this here just for a very quick moment. You asked about the profitability of Kent State athletics, right? And the football.
Mhm.
So this is not from last year. It might be from a couple of years ago, but this is the profitability. Let me share this screen with you here. Share it. And as you can see, men's basketball, men's baseball took a loss. Men's football made money. Women's basketball took a loss as well. So as much as they stink, the big money games, oh boy, bases loaded for the Twins. I don't like that. But as much as they stink and get blown out, it does help pay for other things and the athletic program. So that's all I've got, man. That is all I've got. And until next time, and now we're down 4-2, and that stinks.
What a way to end it.
What a way to end it here. So, Jacob, thank you so much for coming on, joining us for the show. Mike, thank you for hopping on. And, after having to deal with those darn kids, ain't thinking that happens here. And to all of our listeners, Mike from the UK, thank you for commenting. And thank you for our commenting Factory of Sadness. That is going to do it here for another edition of Going